Okay, good morning. Shall we start the discussion? Okay. So any questions before we start the discussion? Okay. Good morning. Let us resume back to our video lectures on machine learning for image processing. Let us continue our discussion on the discriminant function-based classifiers, more specifically on neural networks. So we have seen in the last class a primitive neuron that we will formally introduce as neuron today, but we discussed it as linear perceptron. We have seen a learning rule for coming up with a linear classification decision boundary. Given the initial random initialization of the weight vector or the line parameters, we have seen a learning rule through gradient descent on how to come up for a decision boundary that classifies class 1 and class 2 samples, which are linearly separable by a straight line. Okay, let us continue the discussion in this class and see what is a primitive neuron. And also let us see how biological neuron and artificial neuron are connected or different. the analogy between them, and also see their limitations and so on. So in the last class, we have seen an example for linear perceptron, right? So as I mentioned, this whatever the algorithm we have discussed is referred to as the linear perceptron. Why this is perceptron is a primitive neuron. So we will see what is the analogy between this neuron and linear perceptron and so on in subsequent discussion today. And these corresponds to, this W corresponds to the weights of the neuron. Like we will see something related to weights on this W. So let us take another example before we move on to the connection between linear perceptron and neuron and so on. Okay. So what we have seen yesterday is a learning rule for coming up a decision boundary, especially linear decision boundary. Okay. So let us see in the same, let us apply the same in another example. Let the class 1 samples be given as 1, 0, 0, 1. Okay, these are the samples from class 1, and class 2 samples are given as okay, so these are class 2 samples, and the initial weight vector is given as, our initial line is defined by the normal of the line is -1, and B is equal to 0 here also. Okay, B, but not necessarily be 0 all the time. Okay, please make a note of it. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to come up with a decision boundary that classifies the class 1 and class 2 samples. First, let us sketch and see, because this is in 2 dimensions. You can easily sketch and see. This is X1 and this is X2. Where are the samples? Samples from class 1. Okay, 1, 1. Sorry, 1, 0, 0, 1, and 1, 1. And samples from class 2. -1, 1, -1, 0, -1, -1, 0. So is this fine? Are these fine? The class 1 samples are here, and then class 2 samples are here. Okay. And decision boundary, what we were given. So it is. So where should I sketch the decision boundary? 2. Okay, 2, 1. So it's roughly, it is, how should it be? Is this fine? So if you have, this is 0.5, at 0.5 it touches 1. Okay. So it is decision boundary is this, if you see the normal of this. Okay, it's roughly, this is 2, -1. So 2 units here if you go. Okay, and then -1 units here. So normal is like this. This is normal, and this is the equation of line 2x. So what is the equation of line? Can one of you quickly tell?
2x1 minus x2. 2x1 minus x2 equal to 0.
Yeah, 2x1 minus x2 is equal to 0. Okay, 2x1 minus x2 is equal to 0 is the equation of line. And which are correctly classified and which are misclassified in this example? Can one of you quickly point out which are correctly classified and which are misclassified? So in class 1, which is misclassified? For all class 1 samples, okay, this side is positive. Okay, so all class 1 samples should fall this side of the decision boundary or the line. Is it happening here or not?
No, sir. That 0,
no, this
1.
is misclassified. Okay, so and in class 2, this is misclassified. You want to see this in one stretch. Okay, those who want to quickly do it. So I encourage you people to parallelly do it. Okay, and then you can also convey me ahead of time what should be the next step. Okay, so this is misclassified sample. Okay, and this is misclassified sample. Here you can easily note because it's in 2 dimensions, but in higher dimensions you can't do that. So what we need to do is to accommodate that, we need to have a mathematical procedure. So how do we do it? So W transpose we do with all samples. Okay, so X1 starting from so this dash I'm putting because we would like to consider W and B together. Similarly, X1, X2 and 1 together. Okay, with 6 samples. Okay, we want to see based on this, we want to see which are positive, which are negative. Okay, and then we want to decide on, okay, class 1 samples misclassified and class 2 samples misclassified. Why we want to do all this? Why do we want to do all this? Huh?
To find the misclassified samples first.
Yeah, why? What is the reason for finding misclassified samples?
We'll need it in the update equation of W.
Yeah. So the weight update equation or the line update equation is essentially guided by the misclassified samples. Okay, so dose A by dou W here. Okay, so and it is essentially equal to X belongs to XK belongs to misclassified. Okay, and then here what should I write? Delta K into XK. Only misclassified samples I should consider. Right. So now let us see which are misclassified. So no. 2 minus, please tell me quickly if somebody is clear on what should we write. So W and B put together, and this is what should I write here? 1, 1, and then
1.
1. Okay, and then 1, 0,
1.
1. Because for all the last component, it is 1 only, because we are augmenting with 1. Similarly here, -1, and 1. Okay, 0, -1 and 1. Is it 1 or something -1? These are all omega 1 class samples. Okay, these are all omega 2 samples. Okay, so now if we see which are misclassified and which are not misclassified, how do we know? What should we do now next?
Will
Sorry.
Result of this multiplication.
Yeah, so let us put these, I will write, these are omega 1 samples, these are omega 2 samples. Okay, so now let us put the results here. Okay, so quickly you people tell here, what should be, what is the result here? It is 1, okay, and this is
2.
2, and this is
-1.
-1. Okay, and then here it is -1,
1.
right? -1, correct?
Yes.
And then here
+1.
1, and then here -2. So now which samples are misclassified?
The third and
This is misclassified from class 1 because this is from class 1 and this is misclassified. Remaining are correctly classified. Correct? So now the question is, here you should tell me what should I write in update equation? WT plus 1 is equal to, what should I write here? 2, -1 and 0 together. Please note, though I'm writing on W, okay, I'm using W dash only. So if you want to be too explicit, you can write all this like this. Okay, because bias is also must be considered, because that's also important to change the decision model. See, if you don't consider bias, what is the problem? If you don't consider updating the bias, what is the problem?
the classifying line will always pass through the origin.
Right. But actually, it is not necessary that classifying line should always pass through origin, right? If the samples itself are here, class 1 samples and class 2 samples, okay, you should put like this. Okay, so it can't pass through origin and then separate these samples and these samples. Correct? So you should always include bias as well. Okay, fine. If I don't give any bias, put it as 0 and then start. Okay, so then minus eta. So eta was it given? No, right? So eta, let it be equal to 0.5. Okay. So eta has to be given in the problem, but if it is not given, you take one or probably one you take, just to have a commonness. Okay, so 0.5. So what should I do now? What is the summation over delta k x k dash? What should I include here?
Misclassified samples.
Right, correct. Then tell me the misclassified samples explicitly.
0, 1, 1.
1. Okay, but with what sign? Delta k is what for this?
Negative.
Negative. Okay. And then what is the next misclassified sample?
0, -1, 1.
What sign?
+1.
Plus. Okay. So you please note that delta k I am using differently for class 1 samples and class 2 samples. When I have both of them, I am using them together. Okay, I can add them together, but algebraically I am adding. Okay, it's not direct addition, but algebraic addition. Right? Okay, now what is the answer? So 0 anyway, -2, and then this is 0. Last, so it is -2, minus of minus plus, and okay, so what is the answer now? 2, 0, 0. Is this correct? Is this correct or wrong? Is this
Second one
fine?
is 2.
Huh? Yeah, I need your confirmation whether it is correct or wrong. -2, minus of minus plus 2, and
The
it
calculation is correct, but the line has to be updated more.
what is that?
So the calculation is correct, but we have to do more iterations.
Yeah, we have to do more iterations. That is true. But actually the W dash is what we get in this iteration. Okay, so now where does the line has gone? So it is 2, 0, 0. So it's like 2x2. This implies the line is what?
X1 axis.
2x1 equal to 0. So x1 equal to 0. That is in the y-axis. It touched the y-axis. Correct? So it just touched the y-axis. Now I request you people to do quickly one more iteration and tell me whether it converges in another iteration or not. Do the next iteration yourself, all of you. Quickly do it and tell whether it converges in the next iteration. I will silently do here. So in the next iteration, if you people are doing, so what you observe is that, okay, so there are some project, like if there are some things that pass exactly onto the line. Okay, so if we consider those on the line are correctly classified, no need to do anything. Okay, this is all correct. So that means if I say that this is correct, okay, no need to do anything. So this line itself is sufficient to classify the class 1 and class 2 samples. You got the point what I'm trying to tell? Okay, but if I say that, okay, the next line, so let me put the next line in some color. Okay. Yes.
The ones on the line are correctly classified, like what class will they belong to then, sir?
Right. So you can't like you are making a compromise, saying that actually they doesn't belong to any class, but I have got a reasonably accurate decision boundary or closed decision boundary, okay, which can separate rest of the samples of class 1 and class 2. So I say that if you may test sample also falls on the decision boundary, I can't put any in any of the class. I will put either in either of the class. Okay, so ideally we
x1
should
plus x2
consider
is
that,
equals to 0. 2x1 plus x2 is equals to 0.
yeah, good. So next one will come something like this, right? So the next, if you see, let me put in some other color. So it will come like this, correct? So if you just do one more iteration, it will come like this. So this is what the W naught, okay, whatever we are given with W naught, and this is with W1, okay, and this is with W2. Those who have finished can see. So we usually consider that they are misclassified and try to do further. But in some cases, what will happen is you can't find, because of the sample locations, a line that separates class 1 and class 2 samples. Okay, so in such cases, we make a compromise saying that even the samples on the boundary are correctly classified, it's good enough. Okay, but in general cases, we would like to find out a line which separates the class 1, class 2 samples, even not being them on the boundary. Is that fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So those, so we, for time being, we say that these are not correctly classified to make them more, to see what happens. Okay. So if we are able to find out a better line that separates all class 1 and class 2 samples, it's always better. Minus half times. So now again, there is one sample and here one sample from here misclassified. Please note, this sign is very, very important. If I put, instead of positive sign, negative sign for class 1, okay, instead of positive, negative sign for class 2, what do you think will happen?
We'll get more misclassified samples.
That's okay. What else? Yeah, that's also correct. We will get more misclassified samples. What else?
Sir, the curve will change, sir. Corrected. The curve will be changing also because of that. The sign reversal.
What will be changing?
The cost function curve.
Okay, cost function changes, fine. What else? Instead of now moving the line this side, okay, so if you put the different signs, exactly opposite signs, it will move like this. Okay, so instead of turning, see, to balance it, you need to move, say this is misclassified, this is misclassified. So you need to, these two are misclassified, you need to move the line this side to make them correctly classified, correct? But if you put the negative sign, it means that these are misclassified, okay, and this is correctly classified. So then it will move this side, okay? But if you put one negative, another also negative, okay, then it doesn't converge at all, or both positive. Okay, class 1, class 2, if we give both sign positive, it doesn't converge at all. Also, in one iteration, if you put negative for class 1 and positive for class 2, and in another iteration, it is opposite, okay, again it oscillates. You got the point here?
Yes,
have you
sir.
understood what I have discussed? Right. So the sign is very important. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so you can consistently follow either positive for class 1, negative for class 2. Okay, for in each in all the iterations, if you wish to. But preferably, if you start with this, I think it's good to stick to this. Okay. So put here. Okay, what's the answer you got? I think some of you have told.
210.
210. Okay, very good. Okay, I think this is what 2x1 minus x2 is equal to 0, or 2x1 plus x2 equal to 0. Okay, correct. So this is the line, right? So 2x1 plus x2 equal to 0. This is fine. So you both are 2x1 plus x2 equal to 0, right? So I think I have drawn the line probably less inclined, so it will be still like this. So the line is more like this. Okay, so it will be like this. Correct? Okay, so any questions here on this linear perceptron learning? Right. Okay, so this is the line. Right. Okay. So now finally the line equation is this. This is the line that separates the class 1 and class 2 samples. Okay, the decision boundary is this. How do I confirm that this is the decision boundary? Oh, we need to do one more iteration to confirm. Okay, so we have to do this one more time, then see that all class 1 samples are positive. Okay, all class 2 samples goes to their projections are negative. Okay, then we say that it is correctly classified. So you should do that exercise, but I am not doing it here because it's visually inferred. Okay, and you can confirm. Is this fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now let us see now its connection with respect to the neuron. See, before we move on to that discussion, what are the limitations of this linear perceptron first? So do you think that this linear perceptron is applicable to any two-class classification problem?
No, sir.
When is it applicable?
Only when the samples are linearly separable.
Right, only when these samples are linearly separable. Okay, if some samples are like this, okay, then what will happen? You can't find a line that separates them. Okay, and hence the decision boundary keep oscillating. Okay, so you can't find any line that separates them. So the decision boundary keep, okay, whatever you put, the decision boundary keep oscillating. Okay, so there are some elegant methods which will try to give an optimal decision boundary, even in spite of some samples misclassified. So what those methods does is, okay, we don't want to classify all the samples, but this decision boundary has to be optimally separating majority of the class 1 samples and class 2 samples. Okay, and with some good margin as well. So that is one margin in the sense that it should reasonably separate. Okay, in an optimal way. So what do we mean by optimal way is what we can see here. If the samples are like this, okay, how many separating lines can we put in between them? How many lines can be there separating class 1 and class 2 samples here?
Infinite.
Infinite. So which one is the best separating line? That is the question posed by some of the classifiers. So among the several possibilities here, which one is a best separating line? Any guesses on this? On that aspect?
One
So,
which is roughly in between.
Yeah, roughly in between. Fine, good. So now that methods, it maximally separates class 1 samples and class 2 samples. In other words, right? Roughly in between means. So what that method tries to do is, it tries to bring the separating line as far as possible from the closest samples of either of the classes. Okay, so if this is the closest sample from class 1 here, and this is the closest sample from class 2, okay, then we try to find out a separating line. There are several possibilities, but to define a line, I should have, okay, so at least 2 points to discuss on that. So what we want to do is, it has to be guided by both class samples, and if it is guided by the closest samples of either of the classes, it is good enough to maximally separate the class 1 and class 2 samples. Okay, so that kind of intuition is used, okay, for coming out the optimal separating line in support vector missions. Okay, so there is a class of classifiers based on this principle that is referred to as support vector machine. What it does is, it first looks at the support vectors. This is a support vector. Okay, this is also a support vector, because these are the ones from either of the class that represent okay, deciding the decision boundary in an optimal way, right? So more than one support vector also may exist. Okay, in some cases you may have more support vectors. Okay, in some cases, like the number of support vectors from either of class also may differ and so on. Okay, this is one approach. This support vector machine also deals with incorporating the samples which are to be considered and which are not to be considered. As we discussed here, if we consider in the first case, if we consider all samples here, okay, whatever you do, you can't get a separating line. So what this support vector machine has a provision is, we want to consider some samples as go beyond the this is referred to as margin. See here, this is referred to as margin. Okay, so that means this is the margin for class 1 and this is the margin for class 2. So some samples, so that means this sample, none of the class 1 samples are this side of the margin. None of the class 2 samples are this side of the margin. Okay, so here, now in this, we also facilitate if we define margin as this. Okay, if we define the margin as this for class 1 samples and margin as roughly this for class 2 samples. Okay, so we facilitate the samples going within the margin as well. Okay, you can see that some of the class 1 samples are, okay, which are to be here or here, we have allowed them. Similarly, some of the class 2 samples have been allowed to go within the margin, other side of the margin. Okay, so the optimization function is casted or formulated in such a way that in this case, the closest distance from the closest sample for the separating line is maximized. In this case, the distance from the closest samples is maximized, and the closest samples are not exactly the samples which are, okay, which are the best, like most closest. Okay, we also see that there is a provision for some of the samples to go beyond the margin. So it is like the two components will be there in the cost function. One component allowing the samples to go outside, okay, that is considering as noise or whatever. The other sample minimizing the error or the distance from the closest sample from either class. Balancing both of them, you get an optimal decision boundary, okay, separating majority of the class 1 and class 2 samples in an optimal way. Okay, is this discussion clear? Is this discussion clear or any questions here? So I will not be discussing on the support vector machine at length in this course. Okay, but if time permits and so on, I will discuss a little more on this. So this is linearly separable support vector machine people call. This is linearly non-separable. Okay, even for linearly non-separable case, we can design or we can optimize to get a decision boundary through support vector machine.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, please ask.
Yeah, just to clarify, in the non-linearly, linearly non-separable support vector machine, we take care of two things, but for linearly separable, we just need to minimize the margin.
Correct. So in this, if you see, cost function has only one term, just that minimizing the distance from the closest samples from both sides. Okay, so it has only one term. You can consider that J essentially has, okay, overall J has only J1. Okay, so minimizing the distance between these samples. Here you have J equal to J1, okay, or minus J2 if you consider both are loss functions. This J2 tries to see that you can put the samples even beyond the margin, and this J1 try to see play the same role as J1. Correct. Is this clear here?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Now, so let's move on. But the more important question is, see, always why do we want to put a linear line separating the samples? In some cases, it is too difficult to constrain it to make it as a linear line, okay, to separate the samples. So that means if the samples are like this, do you think putting a linear line will make this classification or decision boundary to come up easily?
No, sir.
No. So in such cases, let us see what can be done. There are few tricks people apply. Okay, for these samples are referred to linearly non-separable samples only. But now we want to put a non-linear decision boundary to separate them. Here, one trick is even for non-separable samples. Okay, we want to go with a linear decision boundary. Okay, this is still, if you consider the decision boundary, this is still W transpose X plus B. Okay, is equal to 0 only. Okay, but we are allowing some of the samples to be misclassified for bringing the generality of the decision boundary here. Okay, we are only increasing the generality by intentionally misclassifying some of the training samples. Okay, here the problem is slightly different. Whatever linear decision boundary you put, okay, these non-separable samples are, it is not very optimal or very good for this kind of data. So in such cases, can we go for non-linear decision boundary? The question is, how do we come up with a non-linear decision boundary? Okay, again, the problem here is we want to directly come up with a decision boundary. We don't want to model like stochastically class 1 distribution, class 2 distribution. Okay, one with class 1 distribution with one Gaussian likelihood. And class 2 with likelihood of another Gaussian and so on, and then come up with the decision boundary. Still, we are interested in the discriminant function based decision boundaries, but in non-linear, we want to come up with the non-linear decision boundary as the samples are clearly are non-linearly separable. Okay, and this is the case in most of the situations. Here you can say that, see, the samples are, if you see, more or less linearly separable, with only few samples being, there may be noise, in the sense that in the training samples, the measurements in the training samples may not be accurately taken. So I may say that these are just noise samples, I don't care. I want to come up with a general decision boundary. But here it is not the case like that. So by clearly looking at the data itself, I can say that they are completely non-linearly separable, and I want to come up with a decision boundary, non-linear decision boundary, so to separate them well. So my objective itself is to come up with a non-linear decision boundary. So any clues on this? How do we go about it? So let us bring in even a simpler example. Okay, in one dimension, just I am measuring only one feature X. Okay, one sample, class 1 sample is here. Okay, class 2 samples are here. Now this, if you want to put a values also 0, -1, 1. Okay, these are the measurements. So D1 for me is equal to 0. Okay, one sample only I have. D2 is equal to, okay, -1 and 1. Now tell me, give some idea on how do I come up with the non-linear decision boundaries for this, or how do you suggest to separate them? Need some discussion here or input here.
Quadratic setup.
Yeah, you are saying quadratic. Okay, so what you are suggesting is, so we want to say that we want to map the input features X to an output features or nonlinear features Y, which is equal to X square. That's what your suggestion, right? So I am doing it as in sense that I am writing, okay, so features are mapped to another space, okay, another feature set, non-linearly mapped to another feature set. Okay, through this, what's happening here? The first sample is still, okay, for if I measure, this is for X. if I measure X. If I measure Y here, okay, this is 0. These are now D2 samples are 1, 1. Is this clear or not? This is what you are saying. Is it correct? Yes or no? Now, in the Y space, okay, you can easily separate them. 2 samples are here and 1 sample is here. You can separate them. Correct? This is good idea. So one way of doing it is through non-linear mapping of features, okay, into another feature set. Correct? Non-linear mapping directly we will write here. Any other suggestions? Okay. What is this non-linear mapping doing? What is this now? Why is this non-linear mapping helping? Is this only the suggestion? Any other non-linear function can I use here to separate them? Any other possibility for F?
We can try even higher orders, or we can maybe use other kernel functions like Gaussian or something.
Okay, so kernel function is too big terminology, but we can just use a non-linear function like Gaussian function as well here. Okay, so here if I use here, so simply this is equal to, for the first sample, D1 sample it is, okay, D1 it is 1, okay, and D2 it is, it will be some e power minus 1, okay, so it is smaller, right? So you can see that even here, so now if you see, so in that case what is happening, X is here and Y if you consider as magnitude. Okay, so what's happening? This sample, whatever you're showing here, this sample is now, whatever you're showing, this sample is now where? At 1. Okay, and these samples, whichever are here before, okay, are now somewhere here, right? These are mapped to here. So you can put a decision boundary like this in Y space, right? In X you can't separate, in Y you can separate. Is this clear? This goes here, right? So nonlinear feature mapping, how is it helping to separate them? Mapping of features. Help to make
Decision boundary.
yeah, features linearly separable.
Yes.
Separable where? In transformed, okay, in after nonlinear transformation or after transformation, correct? Mapping. Is this clear or not? Because of this, you are able to separate them. Fine. Here also, for these samples also, will you separate? Any suggestion? And how should I go? Here also, the same trick works or not?
Yes, sir.
You can put a center here and then make a Gaussian. Okay, so like that. So there is other way. This is one way. So nonlinear mapping is essential if you want to linearly separate the samples. Okay, if the samples are non-linearly separable. This is one trick. Other trick is what? See, what I can do is I can increase the dimension of samples. See, previously I have seen the samples only X. So now I construct a feature vector. Look at the samples in higher dimensions. Any suggestion here? How should I look at? So X, now I will make X and Y together. See, if I see this now, so in this case, you are able to see anyway, Y itself is good enough. But if you put X and Y together, this also will help them to separate. That's what I just plotted here. Okay, so it is for the samples whichever you have taken. Okay, so here especially if you see here, these two samples are coming to a single sample. Okay, but if you consider them, okay, in X and Y together, okay, even here. So if I consider X and Y together, what will happen? So first sample is 0 and 1. Second sample is 1 and e power minus 1. Third sample is -1 and e power minus 1. You see here, even the class 1 samples and class 2 samples within are also separated. Okay, so as you can see exactly here, all the 3 samples are different. But if you see in Y line alone, okay, they are same. So you can look at the samples in higher dimension to easily distinguish them or separate them. Is this clear? Is this discussion clear? Any questions here? Okay. So these are the common tricks people use. Okay, for performing this, okay, there are several different elegant ways to do that. You applying nonlinear transformations is essentially done in neural networks. Bringing them to higher dimensions, okay, through some like strategies like kernel trick somebody has mentioned is done in support vector machine. So support vector machine has also provision to bring the non-linearly separable samples and come up with a higher dimension and come up with a non-linear decision boundary. That means if I put a linear decision boundary in higher dimensions, it essentially brings in a non-linear decision boundary in the lower dimension. Do people understand? If I put a non-linear decision boundary, linear decision boundary here, let me erase these things. Okay, so you can see that now if samples are non-linearly separable here, this is equivalent to, okay, putting a linearly separated here in higher dimension. This is equivalent to samples now are separated by a non-linear decision boundary in lower dimension. Is this clear or not? Okay, you're separating like this. If you consider just the single dimension. Yes, is this clear?
Sir, so are we essentially generating another feature using the existing features?
Right, correct. We are looking at the same set of samples or features, okay, in different way. It's like a transformation of vectors with different space or different basis vectors, right? In this similar manner, here it's a linear transformation there in matrices or in algebra. Here we are non-linearly transforming to our mapping to see how they look in in nonlinear space. If nonlinear space alone is also not sufficient, we are bringing the dimensions to higher dimensions, and then we can see that they are linearly separable or easily separable. Then we put a decision boundary there. We design a decision boundary in higher dimension itself, and then bring back into the lower dimension because the original samples are in lower dimension and show the decision boundary. Is this discussion clear? Also, any questions now you should quickly ask. This decision boundary is exactly same as, okay, these two are exactly same. Okay, these two decision boundaries. Okay.
So your mic is covered, we cannot hear properly.
Oh, fine. So is it same with all? So far, you have been facing this problem from the beginning of class or just now?
Just now.
Okay, then I think it's fine. No, but please tell me in case if you have the difficulty of hearing and so on, we will then.
It's still now, sir. It's yet covered, I guess.
Okay. Still, it's not very well audible.
No, sir.
It had improved just one word. Okay, we had heard very loudly, sir. Then it again.
Good. So now, what about it?
Same. Sir.
So anyway, we will conclude it now. So today's class. So tomorrow we will discuss again. Anyway, the time is up, right? Okay. So it's still, if it is not audible, let's conclude the class now. But if it is audible, let me know. I will discuss a little more aspects. Okay. Thank you then. Let's conclude the class for today here and resume back in the next class. Okay. Also, I stopped sharing and so on. So if you have any quick questions, if I am audible, you can ask. Otherwise, we'll conclude the class now. Okay. Bye to all.